Greetings! Welcome to the Week 13 Early Access Update for Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off, as always, with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So we have got, along with that brand new 1911 sound there, a whole bunch of new fun toys for you this week. Where to start? Well, let's go ahead and start here. This has been a long time requested edition, which is an actual proper AK rifle. Let's spawn lock a magazine in there. Let's grab ourselves an optic. Ooh, what to pick? Let's do the tall red dot here. Zero that in. So yeah, this isn't an AK-47 per se. This is an AKM, which to my understanding is the more recent pattern of the rifle. And we've also got a rail adapter on it, as aiming off of these irons, especially with, VR panel resolutions, isn't necessarily the best experience. So, as with many of our other submachine guns and rifles, we have a fire selector. Left click on the touchpad, and they'll take us between safe, semi, and auto. Note that you can't actually pull the bolt handle back to rack it unless you're actually first on semi or full. And the removing of the mag and switching the mag, because I see this asked all the time on our Steam community, is done similar to the MP5 and the UMP, in that you actually have to grab the base of the mag and then click the touchpad to remove it. So let's pop that back in there. Let's rack it. Let's take some shots. Delightful. Absolutely love it. So obviously this is the sort of recoil simulation for this is much more intense than the M4, the Mark 18. So don't expect at this range to just be able to, hold it down and hit much at that range. But yeah. Wonderful. What next? Also, on the long requested list is our first bolt action rifle. This one's a little simple one. This is a Sako 85. It's one of several that I have assets for, and operation wise is the simplest. It's where I wanted to start. Some of you may know that I have a wonderful donated model for a Mauser 98K, but as that uses a stripper clip and an integrated magazine, I wanted to do one that was a little more straightforward to implement first. So let's grab this. Let's go ahead and grab our mag and our brand new optic. This is an adjustable 3 to 12x scope, but let's go ahead, let's start simple. So I'm going to spawn lock this magazine, and then I'm going to go ahead and dump out the rounds, as one of the things that you can totally do with this, if you so choose, is to open up the bolt, chamber around by hand, lock it down, and take aim. Wonderful. Honestly, I prefer shooting it like this, just because I love all the little manual hand interactions, obviously. Can't actually see this range where I was hitting. Might have not been... Ooh, that's terrible. Wasn't hitting it at all. Anton needs to practice on the irons with this more. Anywho, let's go ahead and pop in a whole mag. Now, in terms of firing this, there's two ways you can go about it. There's the sort of careful, more accurate way, which you see me doing, where after each shot, I'm removing the main hand from it, using the bolt handle, and then grabbing it again. The other way you can do this, if you want to, say, speed shoot it, say if you want to use it against clunk, is actually having it in your left hand and essentially never letting go of the bolt handle. So this way we can actually sort of line it up with our target and fire rapidly. Not that that would necessarily result in terribly good aim, but it's an option. Pop that out. Let's go ahead and put on our new optic. Let's send this out more like 40 feet. Reset this. I'm gonna embarrass myself. I'm so shaky-handed that my aim with this is pretty reprehensible. Just so you can see the difference for the optic, here we are at about a 3x magnification. And then let's pop that up. Here it is up at 7. And then here it is up at 12. Please note that this isn't necessarily zeroed for a range as close as that target. So if you actually, say, out at 40 feet here, have your crosshair right over the bull there. Let's see here. Yep, you're going to shoot a little bit low. But yeah, so much fun. You'll also notice that all of the amplified optics, this, the ACOG, and the other two magnifiers, should now behave way more correctly in terms of how close or far away the front edge of the scope is from the eye. Before, the FOV for the sort of virtual camera used for it was constant, which is not actually optically correct. But we have a solution here. It's not, it's not 100% realistic, but it's way closer and behaves far more stably. Wonderful. And now, over to a new scene that I've put together this week, considering that we're now, I think, 3 days from the 4th of July. And so I decided, especially after the difficulties of getting the new weapons online and some physics stuff I'll talk about in a few, to do something a little more playful. And so what I have done, in addition to refactoring the way that all fire and flammability works to eventually make that system more modular and have more things able to be set on fire, I've made a few little toys for you. So the first one is Bangers and Smash, which is our little snap fireworks toys. You can open and shut the box just like the Matchbox by clicking the touchpad. Pull one of these out of here. Wonderful. You can also just dump out a bunch of them here. I've spent already far too much time playing with these. Incidentally, they can also be lit on fire, which I don't know if you ever did that as a kid, expecting, oh, maybe it'll blow up even more. It's more of a disappointing little fizzle. Wonderful. What next? So we also have some sparklers. Note that the sparklers and the Roman candles I'm going to show in a second can all be spawn locked. So you can totally just pull out and duplicate them. You can light them with each other. Trust me, way better in stereo. And you can use these to light our Roman candles. Incidentally, these are firing projectiles quite similarly to the firearms, so if you've got really good aim, you can totally just over the shoulder these, try to take out a wound. Got 2 of them. So yeah, let's go ahead and spawn lock. Let's make 1 more of these. So we take out Uncle Spam here. I hope you have fun with that, especially for those of you who either aren't in the U.S., so aren't celebrating anything on the 4th, or just don't have some fun fireworks to play with. Hopefully this will be the next best thing for you. Enjoy!
Yo! Beyond the new stuff that I just showed you, this week was actually about 60-some% of this week was yet more physics-oriented refactors for the player controller. I basically had to rebuild it all and a bunch of the locomotion systems yet again. And the reason for this had to do with crushing performance issues that I discovered about 5 hours after pushing last week's update and started panicking. Basically, it's the problem is a little bit too in-depth or a little too complicated to go into in-depth right now. But in layman's terms, basically, if you try to move complex hierarchies that are part physics object and part not physics object, like a player with quick belts and things in those quick belts precisely and instantaneously, you incur a huge performance penalty. The only cheap way to do it is essentially move it when the physics tick happens. This is a little challenging because the physics tick and the draw frequency are out of phase. Even if you're doing your physics tick at 90 FPS, they're not in lockstep. And so I spent most of this week, I first fixed the performance issue and then spent the rest of the time trying to not make it so that everything just jittered around or interpolated strangely. It was panic-inducing, but I've gotten it to a place I'm mostly happy with. There are a few things that act a little more glitchily than before, but the whole thing, I mean, we're talking about sliding movement taking all of a sudden 10 milliseconds on the CPU versus taking like 0.3 milliseconds. So it's a huge performance difference, and so I'm willing to eat any sort of small aberrant behavior as a result of it. Beyond that, all of the explosions from things like the grenades have been refactored. So you might have noticed before in the breaching scene that using a grenade kind of stunk because you'd like throw a grenade into the living room and every single object in the whole scene would get hit by it. Nothing seemed to block the damage that the grenade was doing because I wasn't doing occluded vision checks and have my physics layers set up right for it. That's all working now. So those should be a lot more nuanced to use and hopefully a lot more fun. As I mentioned, the flammability system has been refactored, in part because I eventually want to have more things be able to react to fire, but the way I had it set up before, because the code was old, it was back when I did the first, did the match months ago, was not fast and was not going to scale well with multiple things on fire, so that's been fixed. I won't tell you what I changed about the banana grenade, but I'll just say go play with the banana grenade. It's correct now. I tweaked the handgun reset thresholds. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, that basically is, let's see, let me grab a controller here. The reset threshold is basically the point at which when you've, say, fired, and, can't see it, and you want to be able to fire again, you have to release the trigger to a certain degree. Most of the handguns in the prior update, other than really the Glock, because that was the only one I had information on, you had to basically release the trigger completely before you could fire again. Now most of them are about 40 or 50% you have to release. So rapid firing with a handgun should be more possible and frankly put more realistic. I've tweaked the alternate angle for the handgun magazines. Before it was about this. I've tweaked it to about here, so hopefully that I think it works better now. Let me know if you what you think with it. Yeah, and beyond that, just a whole bunch of other little low-level physics and behavior tweaks. Yeah, so. As I've mentioned on Reddit, I'm going to be taking a week break, so there's not going to be an update next week. I need to step away for a little bit and recharge, as I've done 13 of these now back to back, and I am exhausted. So, working on the toys this week, the Roman candles and the bang snaps, made me realize how much I missed some of the stuff I was doing earlier in this project, where I got to play around with little goofy things. So I think just taking a sort of a 1 week sabbatical to not have, a build to hit, and to be able to just play around without necessarily a goal in mind will be really refreshing and frankly useful to the game, useful to the process. So with that, I hope you all have, if you're celebrating it, a wonderful holiday. Otherwise, just have a great weekend. And I'll see you guys in, 2 Fridays from now. Peace.